business, how much does intuition play a part in leadership?
I think it's huge. Um, and that's why, as you said, the experience piece creates a more refined intuition. And I also think when you're younger, you don't actually, I call it my little voice. I know when I was younger, when my inner little voice was telling me something, I didn't listen to it. It was like my intuition speaking to me, but I didn't have the confidence to listen to it. And I think as you grow older and have more experiences and more wisdom, you have enough of those moments where you said, I should have done it a different way, and I knew I should have done it a different way. I just didn't listen to myself. I think it's a combination of having more confidence in listening to your inside voice and also having a much more refined and wise inside voice that you can use. It's a huge part of leadership. I mean, we're all in positions where we need to have a high emotional intelligence to understand the nuances of all the different personalities we're dealing with, and then how the group is behaving as well, and make the appropriate, judgment about how we should behave with them. But that's why we're all on this phone call, trying to learn from each other and trying to further refine our instincts and our intuition. So if you're asking me, is it important in hockey? Absolutely. Is it important in business? Even more so. Yeah. Business, managing people in a business and managing people on a hockey team is not much difference. At least I found that way in kind of straddling both worlds. So it's all about becoming a better leader and learning how to deal with people better, and learning from our own mistakes and learning from our own successes and taking the time to reflect upon them. Absolutely. It's all part of this.
I just got Jordan Fenton, a principal in a school. I don't know if he's on or out for recess, but I was just going to bring up this point in education, having been a teacher for many years. And Al and Al, working with young people, the educational system tends to be fairly autocratic and directive. And I had a principal at a high school. When I retired, I came back to the school, and she had a sign up that really inspired me. And I think Alan has picked up on this. And the sign in the staff room was, it's not about how smart the child is, it's about how the child is smart. And I use that phrase in coaching clinics because you can prejudge a player at any level, but when you do it in minor hockey and you start labeling and putting limited expectations on different players who have had bad birth dates, who haven't played as much and had as much individual help too soon, you're going to have the problem that you have moving up the ladder, not only in sports, but in their real lives. And I think that's a key phrase. Jordan, can you make any comments in your educational experience, both in elementary and high school?
Well, I think that it depends, Wally, on the levels. It's a good thing you mentioned the levels, as well as time has passed. I still try to think that I'm at the lower end of the curve of where I am in my career, but I get reminded of that almost daily when the newer members of my staff are all young enough that I could have taught them. And so it has changed, and the autocratic nature of high school still occurs in some disciplines, but I've seen the Socratic method used in the humanities extremely well at the high school level, and project-based learning and pieces like that, where it's more about engaging the students in being curious. Back to your stuff that you sent out this week about the students or the players on the bench, looking at video and that piece and the inquiry side of things. But that is something that the inquisitive nature of children in elementary has been something that the master teachers have always um, encouraged and looked at, and it's kind of funny that we usually beat that out of them by that curiosity by middle school, so that they just learn that it's about the curriculum. And of course, I kid that we try not to, but unfortunately, that's the way it goes sometimes with putting content more important than learning process. So I'm kind of rambling with it, but it is interesting that it was an art teacher at the high school that his philosophy was one that I think that should be adopted in all learning process. And what it was he said that you have to learn that it's the process and not the final product that we have to be encouraging. And he said because when he was before he took his education degree, he went to the Alberta College of Art and Design, and the specialty that he had looked at that he did was glass blowing. And he said you could spend hours and hours and hours working on the perfect piece on the end of a blowpipe, and he said only to have it slip off at the last moment, hit the floor, and shatter into 1,000 pieces. And he said, if I didn't enjoy the process, he said, I would never have built a second piece. He said, you would have thrown that blowpipe in the corner and never done it again. And I think that that's the same thing, whether it's practicing a high level skill in hockey, that if the player doesn't appreciate the work and effort and energy that goes into that process, they'll never get to the next level. It has to be in them, and we have to encourage it at the youngest level. And like Alan is doing with his little guys and younger players, and teaching them that it's all these things transfer into life and life skills and those pieces. And what David was talking about with emotional intelligence, well, after Tuesday's announcement here in Alberta, I, of course, have had to deal with being in an elementary school where I then have staff and parents and people coming up and questioning, well, why are elementary students being treated differently than junior high and high school students, about the junior high and high school students being online starting on Monday. And you have to be able to work with all of those individuals and try and tell them that, well, in our school here, we've had 5 students test positive out of 500, so that's not a large number. And of the 5, only 1 of them showed symptoms. So we're showing that it's not transmitting as readily, or maybe we just don't know because they're not being tested. But it's trying to reassure that we're doing things to keep people safe. And you can feel the frustration in the staff, in that the premier basically called the elementary schools or spoke about elementary schools and daycare centers in the same vein, that we're here to keep being able to go to work because we're providing childcare. We always knew that, but we never had the premier actually come out and say that. So
Such a complimentary guy.
yeah, so it's one of those things that that emotional intelligence is so key. And I've just been listening to the conversations this morning, and it's been great as ever. I jot down snippets on. I'm a Post-it guy, so I've got snippets on Post-its everywhere. So it's been really good. So thanks again for today.
Rick, anything to add? Rick Puttock.
It's like Jordan, Wally. I'm making notes and listening and taking it all in for the moment, but thanks.
TJ, I see you're on. I don't know if you really are or not. Terry Johnson.